All right, guys, so discussing how we're going to get through this delta math and the way you should be addressing all of these problems and applying what you just learned in your previous videos on just the basic rules of triangle mid-segments. So DEF is formed by connecting midpoints. So that means we know that FE is a midpoint, DE is a midpoint, and FD is a mid-segment. Sorry, not points. What I did when I did this problem is I know that FD is congruent to these two guys. I know that ED is the same as, and I just marked this wrong. Sorry, we're going to do 2s for the purples, 1s for the red. So this is half of the entire CA, which means half. Sorry, guys. Half. And then EF is half of BA. So that means that this half is equal to each half of that one. So if we apply our angle, side, angle, side, angle, side, 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 and all that fun stuff that we just learned in triangle congruency to this, we also know that all 4 of these triangles are congruent to each other. They've just rotated around. So the way I looked at it is if I went, this is asking for BED. So I'm looking for BED. So this is the angle I'm looking for. So that's between purple and red. So if I look at my triangle down here between purple and red, that means it would be this angle here. And if I'm looking for this triangle, it would be this angle here. So knowing that alone, then you know that BED is 44 degrees because it's 44 degrees there. And to over-explain a little bit, that means B between purple and green would be matching E. Between purple and green here, it would be angle D. And then last but not least, this angle is going to correspond with this angle and also with this angle. And applying it to the inner, I haven't seen a lot of those problems necessarily pop up. But again, use your markings. And if you have highlighters and markers, I would definitely use them. For me, it gets a little overwhelming when you mark it with a pencil and things don't just jump out. And as soon as you use colors, it seems to be very simple. So BED, so BED is the same as ECF. And so that means our answer is 44 degrees. And you're going to type that into delta. Our second example from delta math. So if I know that all of this is 12, then I know this is 6, this is 6, and then the midpoint that is parallel to, I'm sorry, mid-segment that is parallel to it is also 6. I know this is 8, so that means I'm 4, 4, and its mid-segment that's parallel is here. Since the bottom is 6, then that means I know that it's 3, 3, and its mid-segment is 3. It is asking for the perimeter of triangle VWX. So VWX, I'm doing the perimeter of this, which would be 3 plus 4 plus 6, which gives us 13. Another idea is if you're thinking about mid-segments, these triangles are just scales of each other. And if all 4 of those are the same, I know that if this side length is half of this side length, and this side length's proportion is half of this side length, and all the way around, that means that I know that the big triangle should be 26 if we have our half rules. So 12 plus 8 plus 6 does indeed give us 26. The scale factor is by 1/2 or divide by 2. So you could also get your 13 that way. Whichever way sticks in your brain works the best. All right, so our next example. So we want to know the perimeter of triangle FG. Oops, definitely drew that wrong. FGH. So around the outside, going from F to G to H. That's the perimeter we're solving for right now. Our given information is on the inside. So this 4 is going to give me a 4 here and a 4 here. This 4 is going to give me 4, 4. This 5 is going to give me 5, 5. So that gives me 10 on this side, 8 on this side, and 8 on the other. So I have 26. Now, again, speaking to our scale factor, since all of these triangles are congruent on the inside, and we know that mid-segments are half of the parallel side that it's across from, then if I know 4 plus 4 plus 5, so 4 plus 4 plus 5, it should give me 13 because it's half of that 26. So with my given information, instead of half of the 26, if I double it, then I would also know that the external triangle should be 26 as well. Again, whichever way works for you. Highly recommend colors, though. So now we're looking at angles and less marking, so not all 3 mid-segments. So it says that IHG, so IHG, so this angle right here, is negative 7x plus 75. And then IKJ is negative 4x plus 57. Now, again, this is a scale factor. So this mid-segment is half of this. But that means they're scaled down triangles. And if they're scaled triangles, That doesn't mean, like we did the polygons last week, that doesn't mean the angles change. The angles are actually exactly the same. The triangle itself just shrunk. So our triangle IJK is half the size of IGH, like we just proved when we were doing perimeters. So in that case, our angles are congruent that match up to each other. So this K is going to be congruent to H. So K is congruent to H. J would have been congruent to G. Oh, that didn't change color. Sorry, guys. J is congruent to G. And if we went in and did all our extra goodies, these would match up just like our last one we just posted. So these guys would be congruent because it looks exactly like our previous. Hopefully you have this in front of you and you can see them and compare them. So we know that they're congruent. So negative 4x plus 57 is equal to negative 7x plus 75. We're going to work towards, remember we have our big equal marks, which means you have to be very conscious. If it crosses over, you have to take the opposite. I like to work to make my x positive, so I'm going to move the 7 this way. Add 7 to both sides. It's going to be 3x plus 57 equals 75. So I'm going to subtract 57 from each side. And when I subtract 57 from each side, then I get 18. So 3x equals 18. Divide by 3 because that's that inverse of multiplication. So x is going to be 6. Now be careful if this is a multiple choice question on our quiz or on any state given test, 6 is going to be there. That's not the answer to this question. What is the measure of angle IHG? IHG. So we're going to take this and plug in 6. So negative 7 times 6 plus 75. So give me a negative 42 plus 75. And so that's like same thing as 75 minus 42, which is going to give us 33. So our actual answer to this problem is 33. Be careful because multiple choice 6 will be there. If you already are understanding these, by all means, you can jump out of the video. But I have a couple more that I was going to give you just in case because I know delta can get really frustrating if you get mixed up. So another angle one. So DBC. So DBC. So D to B. So this angle is 4x plus 53. And then DEF is negative 6x plus 133. Now again, for me, sometimes the Y, like previously when I was showing you all your mid-segments, doesn't make as much sense to me as that I know that this angle is going to match up to this one, and then this angle is going to match up to this one, and I memorize it that way. It just doesn't give you the mathematically sound reason. But it is because of the placements of the previous problems that I showed you how they should all line up. But it may be easier in your brain just to realize small triangle on top or your mid-segment triangle up, the base angles are congruent to the matching base angles below it. So again, we're going to set these equal to each other. Negative 6x plus 133 equals 4x plus 53. I like moving my x's to positive, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. So I have 133 equals. Be careful when you're crossing that equals, not to forget you have to convert the signs, like flip the signs. You can't just move things magically. So minus 53 minus 53, I end up with 80 equals 10x. Divide by 10 because that's the inverse of that multiplication, and x equals 8. Again, take a deep breath, make sure that we've answered the question, and we have not because it says what is DEF? So DEF, what is DEF? We have our x. We're going to plug that in to negative 6 times 8 plus 133, and negative 6 times 8 is going to give us, sorry, I'm using my paper, is going to give us 48, so negative 48, because the negative has a positive, plus 133, which is the same thing as saying 48 from 133, and I write my answer wrong, so let me grab a calculator real quick as I'm using my answer key. 133 minus 48 is going to give me 85, so that angle is going to be 85 degrees. Make sure you're careful about those negatives because looking at my work, that's exactly what I did wrong. I just added these together, but that's a negative. All right, one more. I actually think we have a couple more, but again, check out whatever you need. So in the diagram, BC is the midpoint. So AC is the midpoint. DE is the midpoint. Man, I'm struggling. Sorry, guys. DE is the midpoint of each side is what this says in sentence. So if DE is 34 minus 6x, then they tell us that AB is 28 minus 4x. Now, if this is a mid-segment, you should have learned in your videos prior that you know this is parallel to this, and that the ratios is DE is 1/2. So DE is equal to 1/2 of AB. Now, as much as that 1/2 is accurate, sometimes to me it's easier to think about that 2 times DE, and that's a D up there, is equal to AB. Because I like to multiply by 2 rather than divide by 2 across, depending on what kind of numbers I have. But always multiplying by 2, super simple. Both of these are correct, and you can learn to use either formula religiously. For most of you, I would suggest picking one or the other and using it consistently instead of jumping back and forth because you'll forget one. So that means 2 times DE, that's 2 times 34 minus 6x, is equal to AB, which is 28, minus 4x. I'm going to distribute that 2, which is going to give me 68 minus 12x equals 28 minus 4x. I'm going to move towards a positive x, so I'm going to add 12 to both sides. And that should give me 8x. And I have 28, and that's a positive 8x equals 68. So I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. And I should end up with 40 equals 8x. That's multiplication, so we're going to divide by 8. And x is going to equal 5. Again, don't jump too fast because if it's multiple choice, it'll be there. What is the question? What is the measure of segment DE? So that means I'm going to go back to this segment, use that measure, use that 5, and plug it in, and have 34 minus 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30, so 34 minus 30 gives us 4. So the length of DE is 4. Now, last but not least for real, OP is 31 minus 2x. LM is 38 plus 47. And remember, this is your mid segment relative to LM. So we know that these are parallel to each other. And we know that this is half of the length of LM, or multiply it twice and then it's equal to LM. So again, so 1/2 of LM, the big one, is equal to the mid segment OP, or getting the 2 off the bottom, 2 times OP is equal to LM. Both are correct, whichever one works better for you. I like to multiply. So I'm going to do 2 times OP. So 2 times 38. I realize I just, nope, it's 31. Sorry, made that up all together. That one, pretty ugly. So 31. 2 times 31 plus 2 minus 2x is equal to 38 plus 4x. So it's going to give me 62 minus 4x equals 38 plus 4x. Again, we're going to remember we have that equal sign. You have to be careful crossing things when it crosses sides. I'm going to work towards a positive 4x. I did it again. Positive 4x. So I'm going to add this way. So I end up with 8x. I have that positive 38 plus 8x equals 62. I'm going to subtract 38 from 62. So subtract 38 from 62. I think I did something wrong. Or I'm looking at the wrong problems. Hold on, guys. I just want to make sure I'm not going to stay you down a terrible road. Nope, there it is. So 62 minus 4x, and then 38 plus 4x. We're going to subtract that 38 from 62, and I should get 24. So 8x equals 24. Divide by 8x equals 3. Again, don't jump too fast. Multiple choice, it will be there. What is the measure of LM? So what is the measure of LM? What's the big one? So 38 plus 4 times 3. So 38 plus 12 gives me 50. All right, guys, those are your examples. Hopefully that helps you through your Delta math. If you have any questions, I would maybe even rewatch it and write it down on print if you can print out those pictures that I posted. So that way you can use it as you follow along because the math should repeat. Have a great afternoon, guys.